Yes! For as long as you can recall, you've always come off as shy, socially awkward, and some would even perceive you as the standoffish type. Fitting in with your peers has always been a challenge. You've always found difficulty in talking to people, but connecting with other people feels impossible at times. The mere thought of being around a bunch of people is enough to make your skin crawl, but you've always wanted to know what it felt like to be able to walk up to a random stranger and spark up a conversation. A trip to the grocery store could take forever because the challenge of finding everything on your grocery list is exacerbated because you'd rather spend an eternity looking for everything yourself than to deal with the stress of asking one of the store's employees for help. If it wasn't already obvious, you're an introvert. You're not outgoing, you don't enjoy the company of strangers, and sometimes you would rather be left alone entirely. I'm sorry nobody ever told you this before, and some random guy in a YouTube video revealing the news probably isn't the most enlightening way to find out, but you clicked on this video for a reason, and here we are. Anyways, you're here to find out how to become better at being an introvert. After realizing that you suck at being outgoing and being around people for extended periods of time, it became apparent to you that you were no match for the social life. So I want to share some of the do's and don'ts of being an introvert. I want to be clear about everything. We're all humans, and everybody is unique in their own way. I want to make this evident because it's a common misconception that all introverts are the exact same, and this couldn't be any further from the truth. Because when the thought of introversion comes to mind, the most extreme cases of social ineptitude and social awkwardness arrive alongside it. Admittedly, it does make sense to think this way if the textbook example of what an introvert is the first thing that comes to mind, but you gotta realize that everybody is different. Some introverts absolutely abhor being around other people and are perfectly content spending every day of their lives alone, while others enjoy an occasional night at the bar with the homies. There's always a variance, so don't ever lump everybody into the same category. And if you're an introvert yourself, don't use anybody else's personality style or experiences as reference for your own, because the way that you experience and perceive things might differ dramatically than how somebody else would. But yeah, let's go over some of the things an introvert should never do, accompanied by some ideal alternatives that are more than likely work better for you. Number 1. Pointlessly placing yourself in social situations. We live in a world inhabited by over 7 billion people, so dealing with and being around people is something that we all have to deal with. Now, I'm not about to rattle off an entire list of instances where you aren't given a choice in the matter of dealing with people, but work and school are the first two that come to mind, and almost everything else is optional. Concisely put, I would personally never incorporate myself into a social instance for the sole purpose of being outgoing. One of my personal fears is making a fool out of myself because I'm fully cognizant of the fact that my social skills aren't the best, and I can only imagine how terribly things would go for me if I placed myself somewhere that I know I shouldn't have been. For instance, if I was ever asked by a friend to tag along to an event attended by a lot of people, the first thing that would come to mind is how I would benefit from spontaneously conversing with strangers. Of course, if a stranger approached me with the intent to converse, I would be respectful and honor that request. I'm just saying. I operate this way because I strongly adhere to the only speak unless spoken to ideology, because this way I'm a lot less likely to say or do something to jeopardize the situation, and my social awkwardness won't be as apparent. Let me paint you a picture. If I were to approach a person I didn't know just to chat, the entire scenario can be discomforting because in my head, I invited myself to foreign territory and I have no idea what I'm getting myself into. I don't know a single thing about this person, and I have absolutely no idea how the rest of the interaction will go. This is when social anxiety runs its course and the difficulty level of the entire social interaction increases. However, if things were to be applied the other way around, I feel so much more at ease because I feel as if I have more control of the situation. It's easier to converse with a stranger if they initiated the interaction, because at that point in time, they're stepping on my turf and I have a lot more options in regards to how I would handle the interaction. So yeah, if you're a socially anxious overthinker like me, just don't go out of your way to talk to people. Things might work out better for you if you stick to yourself and converse with others only if you absolutely have to. Unfortunately, we live in a judgmental world, but I can 100% confirm that it's better to be criticized for being yourself than to be criticized for being somebody or something that you're not and something you might not ever be. Number 2, disrespecting your social battery. All human beings have what's known as a social battery, and no differently than a real battery, social batteries have their own energy supply. Extroverts recharge their social battery through social interaction, while introverts recharge theirs by spending time alone. For all the introverts out there, if you felt completely drained after a long day at work, but has always been more of a feeling of mental exhaustion rather than physical, it's because you're all socialed out and your social battery needs time to recharge itself. I didn't realize how this worked until I noticed how irritable I noticed myself becoming as I neared closer to the end of the workday. Before, I assumed that the anticipation of going home was the derivative of my annoyance, but after working an entire 8-hour shift on one of the busiest days of the year by myself and falling asleep within minutes of getting home, I immediately realized that there was some inner workings that I wasn't aware of. Social batteries can be weird because there are times when they'll recharge quickly and times when they'll recharge very slowly. Again, everybody is different, so some people may need extra time alone to get back to being themselves. Nonetheless, when you're feeling burnt out and you're given an opportunity to spend time alone, take it. I completely understand that you may not have a choice in the matter at times, but not tending to your social battery can have very detrimental effects on your mental health. In the past, I remember working so much to the point where I was beyond burnt out and I had no choice but to call in to work because my social battery was so depleted, I became overly anxious about everything. So yeah, respect your social battery. It's pretty much your life energy source. When your phone has a low battery percentage, your first thought is to find a charger to prevent it from dying. So don't disservice yourself by not treating your social battery with the same amount of care. Number 3, feeling bad about not being outgoing. Every introvert has encountered a situation where they were made fun of for mostly keeping to themselves. This is a common occurrence in society because there's never been a general understanding of personality styles. To my acknowledgement, this isn't something taught in school, so most people end up learning how things work on their own. When I figured out I was an introvert, I embraced it and I began to live my life differently and was fine with the fact that I would never be an outgoing individual. My entire life, I was criticized for preferring to be alone or around close friends instead of social settings where a bunch of strangers would be. Simply put, it's not a crime to be socially awkward, quiet, or anything relevant to that. Be yourself and stick to what you know. And don't ever let anybody make you feel bad about being yourself. Heightened psychological awareness is one of the greatest strengths of being an introvert. And we're like this because we're accustomed to being misunderstood and criticized our entire lives. Because when you've lived a life of being misunderstood or penalized for being yourself, you develop a better sense of self. Being an introvert isn't something you can cure or just get over. It's a component of your default personality style. And placing yourself in non-beneficial situations won't make things better for you. It's definitely possible to learn to come out of your shell a bit and become more outgoing, but a social butterfly is something you will never be. So don't ever let anybody make you feel bad about that. All right, classmates, that does it for this one. If you made it to the end of today's lesson and enjoyed what you learned, do me a favor and thumb rest to that like button till it turns blue. And if you're new on campus, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and click that bell icon and you will never miss another lesson at the Elite Nation University again. But with that being stated, this concludes another lesson at the Elite Nation University. Class is dismissed. Y'all take it easy.
Yes!